Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equity Story. I'm with the man himself, Wolf, and looking looking very good. And Wolf, we're going to go straight into the shares. But before we do that, I must say, what amazing wallpaper that is behind you.
Thank you. I'm hoping you can notice that. It's the new me, Dave. I'm going up market.
Brilliant. And it's got a little Equity Story written there all over it. And I see these little polo mints next to it.
Next stop is the Wall Street Journal for me.
Anyway, I love that new wallpaper, Wolf. It looks so much you. I don't know if that top you're wearing really goes with the wallpaper. It clashes a little bit. I'm not being mean, but
just wait. There'll be a change in attire as well very shortly.
Oh my gosh. All right, Wolf. On that note, let's talk about inflation, because in the UK, Europe overnight, inflation record numbers. You can see it's supported with gold. So this whole idea of this gold play that we've talked about last week with things like RMS, SLL, absolutely. I think that gold play, it's a time to get into gold, and I think gold is looking pretty good with all these inflation issues we've got around the world at the moment. But we've had two companies today. They've come out, they've reported, and bang, down they go because, hello, we've got issues with inflation on both of them.
Yep.
So let's have a look at both these companies, and you could see VEE, which unfortunately is a sell. We've got to get out of it. It's broken the trend line. This is a good company which has got good earnings growth. It wasn't over expensive. Announced absolutely beautifully recently, but suddenly the inflation is coming in, and there's now dark clouds ahead for the company. It's just interesting how suddenly there's this surge in inflation, and some sort of models or business models are turning pretty quickly south. Wolf, can you just talk us through VEE?
Yeah, absolutely, and it probably applies to a lot of companies out there. And this is, I think, about 5 issues that are just affecting these companies, right? And VEE is a classic example of that. So these guys produce propeller systems, right, for ships and ballast type stuff. So of course it's not a software where the costs are more in the product side of things. When you look at what goes into it, so you've got raw materials going into it, that's going up, right? So it gets more expensive to build these things. So that's one, cost inflation. The other problem is delivery. So they talked about delays as well. So that's the second one, which is the supply chain issues. Then you've got wage issues and cost increases. Then you've got finding talent, another issue that's coming through. There is just so many little things, Dave, that are adding up to hitting these companies. And it's interesting to see it's across the board. It's not just in this space, it's across the board. I think the only companies that probably are fairly safe-ish at the moment, they've still got some issues, but not as many, are the software companies, right? But it's unbelievable how these things. So I am really putting a big risk on this for the moment. However, when you look at it, eventually we'll have really good buying opportunities, some of these really companies, because they're going to get out of it and things will improve eventually. But for the moment, we just got to get out. And well, when obviously the trend says to get out, but yeah, I am nervous for a lot of these things.
Yeah, but Wolf, I mean, when you look at this, suddenly, I mean, you're looking at the stocks you own at the moment. You're thinking, these stories that can get affected by inflation, you've got to worry about them a lot more. And it does draw you. It does sort of, when you're looking to buy stuff, it does make the sort of, I don't know, the software companies which aren't so affected by inflation a lot more appealing, doesn't it? A lot more interesting. And we'll talk about a few of those in a second. Catapult, again, Wolf, it's,
exactly the same, David.
Right.
The language was so similar. When you read one of the lines in there to VE, it's like I think they just copied and pasted the same stuff, the same issues.
What's interesting? We've got companies now finding these inflation issues. When's the RBA of Australia going to suddenly start realizing we've got an issue here, and our interest rates are going to get jacked up? Is that on the cards?
Yes, and I think history suggests to us that whenever there's a problem, we never get it right. It's always going to be too late to adjust to things and so on. So I think RBA is saying at the moment, we're not going to touch the reference rates in 2022, but I think they will. This is the thing, because it always happens like that. When they say something's not going to happen, it usually goes opposite. So then they have to, they have to revise their own theory, and they probably have to readjust the strategy. So I'd say if this inflation persists, I think they're going to probably move next year.
Right. Okay. Now, Wolf, talking about obviously gold, Evolution came out.
Yep.
We just needed to do a little bit more. I'd like to buy Evolution really over 450 to make sure the trade's on.
Yep.
But what did you think of the Evolution announcement?
Yeah, look, it was good. It's just the Ernest Henry, because they only own a part of it. Now they're going to own fully outright. That's the copper side of things. So that's quite good for them. But like you said, it just needs a little bit more. I'm happy for fundamentally is a decent gold story. So if gold's trending, I think this should trend as well. So it's on my watch list, 100%, and probably, the top 5-ish.
All right, Wolf, can I talk about ALU?
Yes.
This is a company that I do believe we put on as a cheeky trade not long ago.
We did put a cheeky trade.
Now it's right up near record highs, which is extraordinary. It's broken up. It's holding above that 40. From a technical point of view, you'd argue this could have a little bit of a spurt higher. Was that announcement good enough to you think to drive this price higher for a trade?
Yes, Dave. There was none of that mention of the issues, inflationary type stuff. So it was very positive. If you couldn't find that stuff, you think, "Whoa, this is good." Plus, add to the fact that they've said the first 4 months started very strongly for them, right? The first 4 months of this financial year. They are targeting about 25% growth for this year. So overall, I think this is buy. This is the trade for me for the day.
Okay, and we like it. It fits into our system. Wolfie does it. We've got a good stop loss on it. This is what we're looking for. We've got a good stop loss at 39.80, just below that 40 level. And we need our tight stop losses. We don't trust the market. You know what we're like at the moment. So we've got a nice tight stop loss. Again, that's by the end of the week, and maybe we can target maybe that sort of 43, maybe 43. Would you go 43, 44 around that sort of level?
Oh no, look, Dave, I'm going for 45 really. I think that remember, this is a market darling, right? It's had its issues, it's come back. Look how strongly it's bounced. So I think there's momentum in this. If I think this announcement is good enough, just from my own point of view, I think we can see this $45 in the next 12 months.
Wolf, that's great. So let's go for a little bit the 44.80, and then
all right.
And that's a nice little 9% if we can get it. And we've got a decent little stop loss, which is just around 1 or 2%. So hopefully, Wolf, that one will work nicely for us. Wolf, can we talk a little bit about TWE? They came out with announcement today. It's not trending up, but just fill me in a little bit with the TWE story. Where are you on this story fundamentally at the moment?
Well, look, the story's okay-ish, but we prefer the little smaller one, right? We prefer the little AVGs of the world in this space. A little bit less moving parts to it. Management seems super duper for me in AVG. And, when you see TWE, the big boy, acquiring smaller boys, I'm thinking AVG is my little play, because I've got that good performance from AVG by itself, plus potentially M&A opportunity for someone. So overall, I'm still happy to hold. Nothing's changed really. I know it's slowed down a little bit. It's just holding its trend. Fingers crossed, it's not going to be affected by that 5 issues that we talked about, right? But so far so good. We got a nice stop loss on it. I'm holding.
And you don't think AVG is going to have inflation? Those sort of.
Look, I'm sure that sure it will. It's not a tech stock, so there will be some stuff in there. But you're banking on the management to navigate through it quite well. Their main point of business is through the UK, so hopefully they've got that sorted out. The beauty about it is that everything's produced here in Australia, so not as if they have to get parts from Taiwan, parts from other. At least some of these things are alleviated, some of the issues. Yep, they definitely would have some inflationary pressures, no doubt, like everything else out there, but it's not as bad as some others. So fingers crossed they can navigate.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I suppose they got transport and bottles. I don't think bottles were just going to be that affected.
Can't we just chuck it in the water and hope it sort of drifts towards UK?
Wolf, Aristocrat. Now, it's down
Yes.
3%. It's still holding a very nice trend line.
Look, the numbers, Dave, the numbers weren't as good as previously, right? So that's probably why there's a bit of weakness in it. It's still growing. Yes, absolutely. But it's just having a moment of a little bit, lesser numbers, I suppose, that the percentages they normally come up with. I'm still very happy to hold this. This is still growing for me. It's still well positioned, and just watch probably for more M&A activity from them over the coming 12 to 24 months. Dave, this is a very well company. I don't see a problem with it whatsoever. So if it comes back to the 44, 64, I'm still okay.
Wolf operating revenue was still up 14%. That's pretty respectful, surely, of a big company like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, also, they had a huge capital raising on that acquisitions they made, right? So there's definitely still that hanging over it. It's not as if that's gone through.
So definitely still a hold if you're obviously in Aristocrat.
Yep.
Now, AAC, this is a story that hasn't done much for a while, and Wolf, they had a beautiful setup a few weeks ago with an absolutely wonderful little buy signal, and bang, up it goes, and goes to that buy signal absolutely beautifully. This sector is very, very strong, the agro sector, isn't it?
The agro, it must be very angry in there. The agro sector is very strong, though. And you know what? I love the fact that this is going quite well. It just gives me more confidence that Elders should be going quite well. So I love how this is moving at the moment. It's probably a trading stock. I prefer the picks and shovel story, which is Elders. And I know it's not looking fantastic, but eventually I think it will start heading upwards.
Well, I hope you're right, Wolf. I hope your theory's right. I think it is. So if you're in Elders, just hold it. And okay, we've got a lot of people in this my little agro.
Yes.
Sorry, it's a little bit of an equity story joke there coming out. You've got a nice little stop loss just under 160. I think if you're in it, Wolf, you've got a nice little stop loss, say 158, 159. But I don't think if you're in it, you'd be holding the aggro.
Okay.
SHL.
Yes.
What did you reckon?
Nice update from SHL, but for me, the growth definitely is it's come off those super highs when we had the pandemic and when they were just testing left, right, and center. So now it's probably going to be more of a grind, Dave, moving forward. But still, for a long-term holder out there, great story to still have in your portfolio because it's so well managed, global. It's a blue chip, like there is one in Australia, right? It is definitely probably top 10 blue chips in Australia.
Yeah, definitely a hold if you're in it, Wolf. I think it could have traded a little bit better last week, but definitely a hold. And obviously they're still doing a lot of testing, aren't they? If you read that report, CTT, very strong. These online sales, Wolf, are doing very well for them, and up it goes again. And if you're in that, I think you're holding on.
Crazy numbers today, Dave. They're talking 100% plus growth from one year to the next. So, but you've got a story that's gone from 50 cents to $5 almost. So is the share price run too far, even on the 100% growth? Possibly, right? You got to trade it though, because it's still what a great looking trade. And if you've got a company that's still delivering and executing very, very well, God knows where it's going to go. The momentum could push it much, much higher than it is right now. So for me, while maybe I'm not super keen on a business that's selling top end Gucci type stuff, but then again, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to love it.
You surprised me, Wolf. I thought you'd be very.
Can you see me wearing Gucci, Dave?
I thought that was a Gucci top.
Yeah. Well.
All right. No, I couldn't see you wearing Gucci.
Exactly.
Even with your smart wallpaper behind. JLG, what did you make of that?
A really nice update. Growth there, strong start to the year. Everything's good. I'm happy to buy it on any weakness day. This is still a story it's like a Christmas present that keeps delivering.
Yeah, no, it looks very good. And there's when you look at that chart, there's no reason to get out of it.
No,
Wolf, lastly but not least, BCI just raised more money than their market cap slightly.
It's crazy.
So where do you take this? If you're in it and they get the raise done, they're on the way to building this plant. I mean,
Yep.
what does that mean? I mean, how does this value the company? It's really. I mean, at the moment, you've got a. Let me have a look.
It's a tricky one because they are diluting themselves to smithereens, right, with this capital raise. Saying that, it's a very positive thing that they just done because it pretty much crosses that probably the biggest risk, and that's the funding. They needed 1 point something billion in it, and it looks like they're just going to get over the line here. So on the one hand, yeah, that big capital raising is definitely going to weigh, I'd say. But on the other hand, is finally they can start developing this project, Marty project. So
what?
Where it's going to go, I don't know, Dave. But it's positive from fundamental point of view.
Okay, at the moment the market cap's like 300 million. They're just raising 300 million. So going down the track, they're building this massive project for $1 billion. What potentially could it be worth once they get?
Depends what the project's worth, and I can't remember, to be honest, Dave. I think that the project was, $1 billion NPV on it. So you could say, give it a bit of a discount. Let's say 800, 700 million, maybe, right? At this stage. So there, look, it could double from here, no problems. But like I said, remember, okay, so the company, fundamentally, the company is just ticked a huge box for themselves, right? But they're going to have like a $800 million debt on their book with no revenues, right? So nothing can go wrong, pretty much. And of course, they're diluting the business as well quite significantly. So I don't know where the share price can go from here. We'll just have to follow it and see what happens. But like I said, there's good and bad. You've got to go, if you're going to develop something, you've got to go through that path, right? Overall positive, but we'll see where it goes. I just don't know.
Wolf, PLT yesterday, out as a trend, it's taken us on a bit of a ride. Technically, it's holding up very nicely. It's sort of fighting back from a bit of a sell down yesterday. What's happening there, Wolf?
All right. So yesterday, great looking updates, great trade. Unfortunately, schoolboy error. There was an announcement probably a week back. Some 47 million in shares escrowed were going to be released yesterday after market, right? Why the market didn't respond earlier, I'm not sure. When they announced it. Doesn't matter. Obviously, we missed it, which could have a potential effect on it. Whether the shareholders who were released from escrow 47 million were going to sell out once, of course, no one knows. But anyway, it's a risk event. So I think it prevents an opportunity for us, right, over the long term. This is a really good story to get into. So you got to play by the charts. How long that's going to last, Dave? How long is going to, this sort of 47 million escrowed shares going to weigh on the share price at the moment? I'm not sure, but let's play the charts here. Yep, we probably, should have probably waited into the day to see what happens with it. But so be it. So be it.
So rather than just a trade, more of an opportunity to get something.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we got to return the focus here on it. Instead of being a short-term trade, take that 160 or 170 level. Let's turn into a longer-term trade. Say 12-month trade, and let's take it up to 180. And I'm sure there's going to be a bit of weakness with this. 47 is a big number of shares coming out of escrow. And let's hope maybe there's a bit of crossings instead of feeding into the market for the next 5 years.
If you're in this play as a CTM, as long as it holds above 132, it's a hold. Nibble around 132, take advantage of this, and hopefully Bob's your uncle.
Yep.
You would think, Wolf, a lot of that escrow money, the big guys are obviously in that. That would be sold between different parties, not on.
But if you look, Dave, I can understand some people selling because they got in on the IPO, so they would have been early backers of the company and they want to cash in. Understandable, no problems. But those that see the future of this company, why would they sell? I mean, if you think this company is growing at extraordinary levels, bright future ahead of it, you wouldn't sell. Even if your shares went out of escrow, you wouldn't sell it. You would keep it because you can make much more money, say 12 to 24 months down the track, right?
Yeah, it's company's doing brilliantly.
Exactly.
So really opportunity knocks for people there. Wolf, can I just talk about these gaming stocks?
Yep.
Because I think personally myself, I'm getting more drawn to them. The fact is that they're sort of less infected by inflation and inflation
Mm.
issues,
Yep.
and definitely obviously PLY has been a nice little 100%er for us since we put it on, and this looks like with that announcement, this give it over time, this is going a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a really great story. But there's two other stories, and there's
Mm-hmm.
we talked about ICI, which
Yep.
put on Einstein's. It's had a great little move up. Now with an acquisition, a little bit of raise. We don't know too much about this, and it'll be interesting to see what the raise is and what it's all about.
Yeah, the only keyword in that was a significant acquisition. So I presume it's something big for them. That's why the share price looks so. That's good. Look, good for the sector, Dave. Good for PLYs of the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. That brings me to another little story, which is starting to really motor. Now, we spoke about this one the other day, saying we had a look at it. Was it on RC Analyst Live we were talking about? And we're
Yes,
looking
we
at it
did.
like this, and you said should be a trade, and I said, yeah, it looks okay. Maybe a little trade up to that 18 level.
Mm.
Now, so far, it's smashed through 18, and the day's not over. But if it can hold above the 18 and a half by the end of the day,
Mm.
I mean, this is a stock that's come down from 32.
Yeah.
It's starting to look quite interesting, Mr. Wolf.
And
Now,
Dave, it's a tenth of the value of PLY. It's got huge upside potential here, right? So it's a little mini me PLY in
yeah,
a
but
way.
it, but yeah,
Plus
but it
a
doesn't have the age of
it doesn't
darkness.
have that that sexiness of yes, it doesn't. But the fact that the value is so much lower than IPLY, you can see it can thrash to that 20. It can get back to that. It can get back to that 30 cents that we've seen before. That could be a doubler from here.
So what games do they have, Wolf? What?
The mobile type stuff, just like your PLYs have. They had. So if you compare it, say to PLY did about 10 million in revenues. MKL did about 6, right? So theoretically, probably half the value, right? But it's about the 10 at the moment. I think if I'm looking at the numbers here, or let's say eighth of the value of PLY. So definitely there's scope just for
Okay.
a bit of a little bit of a
Okay,
catch
listen,
up
I got
later.
no problem. I mean, it's back at 18. Look at this as a high risk trade.
Yep, absolutely.
Certainly, you've got your stop loss at sort of 15 and a half, and
Mm.
okay, that's a sort of healthy stop loss, and you've got to be a little bit careful because that
Yep.
stop loss would be around. I'll tell you. So
No.
this is what I always like to look at, Wolf. Is say if I'm buying this at 18 and a half, and I got my
On.
stop loss at 0.55, that's a good 16% fall. So I need to take that into account, and I'm
Yep.
looking at a 16% fall and possibly target that 30. And if I look at that 0.
Let's go 25. Let's just be conservative. Let's go 25.
Okay, let's go 25, and I've got
That's the
0.
first stop.
And then maybe a 35% gain. So I'm seeing some sort of risk reward in that, right? Yep.
Yep. Very happy.
All right.
Even though it's gone up, look, it's gone up 23% today. I think that's the time to get in when it's finally broken out from that malaise, right?
All right. Absolutely perfect, Wolf.
Okay.
Listen, thank you very much for that, Wolf. It's really, really interesting and good to see. I'm just having a look. Good to see PLT having some decent support today,
Mm-hmm.
and I think holding up quite nicely. And those gold plays are very, very interesting. And I think inflation is going to become a bigger issue moving forward, Wolf, to what we're going to be put out and the calls we're going to be making at Equity Story over the next 6 months.
Agree.
On that note, thanks very much, Mr. Wolf.
Cheers.